And can you give us more detail on your vision?
I'm sorry, on my vision of what?
Cooperation as we come out of the other side of this.
Well, I don't think anybody can have a vision yet until we know how we're going to come out on the other side of it and how much damage there will be. And that, in turn, depends on the policies of many, many countries.
Right. So how are we expected to work together when we're still solving the problem in our respective homes?
Well, that, of course, is the big issue, because if we don't work together, the problem is going to be much bigger and the outcome much worse than if we do. Obviously, given how contagious the virus is, it's not going to be possible to have some parts of the world virus-free and not have them at risk from other people from other parts of the world. It just can't happen.
So, Anne, if you were able to get some policies into action now, what would be the top one or two that you would want to see carried out?
Well, I think it's very important very quickly to get an agreement on free trade in medical supplies, both the kit and the medical goods themselves, the personal protective equipment, and otherwise to make sure that all countries share in it and have an organization, I would guess the World Health Organization, take some degree of responsibility for making sure that the supplies get where they are needed.
What are the international organizations doing to help? I mean, I suppose my question is, are they doing enough? I'm talking about the IMF, the World Bank, or has it been left to the central banks and the fiscal authorities to do the work?
Well, there are several kinds of work that have to be done. The first and most important kind is to first contain and then contain the virus until such time as we get a vaccine or otherwise can eliminate it. And that's not a job for the IMF, no matter what. It's really a job that's going to have to be done with coordination among governments, and the World Health Organization is the obvious candidate. Now, the IMF is doing a lot by way of lending money, but that money doesn't help very much insofar as it can't go to provide all of the medical supplies and things like that. And we are in some danger of just having a bidding war for what there is, or worse yet, having the countries that produce things keep them all for themselves.
And is there going to be a turn inwards? A lot of experts are saying that supply chains have been so affected and there was such danger attached to the international supply chain that countries will now look to source everything within their borders. Do you see that happening, and is it okay if that happens?
Well, it's certainly not okay, and it's certainly but it's unfortunately certainly a very real possibility, given the lack of ability so far to coordinate our response in a sensible way, and given that many countries already have been putting restrictions on exports of medical supplies and the personal protective equipment. So, yes, it's a danger, and it's, I think, a danger that will hurt us all. As to supply chains, I think it's long, at least as companies I've known enough to know what they do, it's long been the case that every company knew better than to have only one supplier of something, and I'm surprised at how much of that has actually happened. But on the other hand, I don't see the elimination of global value chains or anything like that. Some degree of recognition that there was only one source of supply, and that that's a problem. Whether the risk is because of a typhoon or whether the risk is because of pandemic, there still needs to be multiple sourcing. But that's not the same thing as saying you have to get rid of supply chains.